Hello, I'm Leanne Mallory, founder and CEO of Leading in Motion, where we specialize in connecting business leaders with the wisdom of their bodies so that they and their companies can thrive. In just a moment, we'll begin our interview, but first, a few words on why we're here. So this interview is part of a larger project called the Corporate Dance Maven, supporting dancers and movement teachers of all kinds to break into the corporate market. Our goal is to help you figure out how to do the difficult and also rewarding work of teaching dance or movement or embodiment in the business context. Whether you're currently teaching or you're just trying to figure out how to do that, whether you're an internal trainer or an external service provider, our aim is that this program will really help you take your work to the next level. I'm here with Katherine. Katherine, say hello.
Hi, Leanne. Hi, everyone.
Hi, so this is Katherine. Katherine is a creative movement specialist who works with competitive elite figure skaters. She also works with business teams on creative movement, and she is the co-director of Design for Dance. Prior to doing this work, she was an internationally competitive figure skater and also part of the Accenture Management Consulting Division for a couple of years. She's been ice skating since the age of 2 and teaching for the past 15 years. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You are so welcome. Do you want to say a little bit more about yourself? I'm sure I've missed some important pieces. What else would you like us to know about the work that you're doing?
Oh gosh, that pretty much gave the overview. Started moving and dancing in, the kitchen when I was 2 years old, and my parents said, "Oh, I think it makes sense to put her in some dance classes and some ice skating lessons." My older brother was skating, and so that's kind of where I got my start. I saw him out there, and I wanted to try. And from a really early age, just loved listening to music and making up dances. So it's something that's kind of followed me throughout the twists and turns of a pretty decently diverse career, and why I'm probably, I'm still sitting in front of you, because we can't move away from the creative movement and the interest in expressing in that way. So, yeah.
Thank you. I totally love that about you, and very much relate to the diverseness in career, which is, I think, one of the reasons that we're friends. Say a little bit more about how consulting has dovetailed now for you with teaching movement and what you do in the context of work that is corporate in nature or business in nature.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I spent 2 years with Accenture, as you mentioned, in their management consulting division, doing the corporate consulting gig, right? Many different clients, a lot of travel, a lot of different, what we called at the time, service lines. So I was working with different teams on different parts of the business, working on financial projects and working on change management, etc. All meanwhile with figure skaters choreographing on the side, weekends, as anytime I could hop on the ice. So for me, I spent the first 3 to 4 years of my career, my young career right out of undergrad study, really playing the game of tennis back and forth. Which side of the brain am I being hired to use today? So, while really quite a blessing and amazing to have the opportunity to utilize both and be challenged in both arenas, at some point I got frustrated, and said, it was, at some point it got upsetting to say, which realm am I stepping into today? Which hat should I put on? And realized more and more that I found both realms were informing each other. So the reason I do this work is because I think more people than we assume want to put on a creative hat and an analytical hat throughout the day. And I see such a benefit to being able to do that. And unfortunately, in our professional environments, whether it be corporate or, I work with elite athletes and that I'm still professional, but we're siloed. So as a choreographer for skaters, I'm hired to have these creative ideas, and people see me as just that. And then the title in the business realm is something different. So the reason I do this is to say, hey, wait a second, let's slow down and stop and see if we can find a way to celebrate and utilize both sides, both personalities, both interests that so many people do have.
I love that. And I love the idea of people wanting to wear more than one hat throughout their day. Will you say a little bit more about when you're doing work that blends these two pieces, what's your philosophy, or how do you hold that work?
Really the philosophy is pretty much that, to be quite honest. It's encouraging and motivating people to be able to do that. And I think you'd be more surprised, or maybe not, because you've had the conversations now, that so many people feel stuck or unengaged, or, the retention rate in a lot of our companies is decreasing significantly. And it's because people aren't being challenged. We need to, we want agility. And here come my sports analogies, right? But we want people to feel agile throughout their day, and to have to think quickly and problem solve. And that is really what I'm seeing decrease. We have a role, we learn it within 6 months, and then now we know what we do every day at work, and the challenges aren't coming. So that's kind of the philosophy, is helping people stay agile, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
I love the metaphors too. How often we can see something that is true in movement, or if I can have that in movement, if I can be agile, for example, then can that translate to how I am at work, or the way that we do things at work?
Definitely.
Will you say a little bit about, or give us an example, let's say, of one of the first movement-oriented or blended workshops or sessions or training, something that you did that was kind of a break into the blended market for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the biggest, I would say my recommendation on, this type of work is to find a space that is safe, and find a space that is comfortable for you, so that you can experiment with your ideas and what you think is most important for people to know, and then also understand the way those that don't have a movement background think. So something that's been very important to me is the reason I enjoy this work is that I understand both sides, right? I've been there in front of the computer for the 14 hours a day, looking at PowerPoint or spreadsheets, and on the same side, I have studied dance and do all of this other work. So I think to me, that's what's most important, is having that freedom and that comfortable space to learn yourself. What are the problems these people are encountering? What do they need? And quite honestly, they're certainly not pirouettes and arabesques, right? They're much different. Not any less profound, but just much different in their need. So asking those questions and understanding that, you've created a space for you to fail and for you to learn prior to, having either higher profile client or something with a little bit higher stakes, I think is important.
Thank you. Can you give us an example of how you do that? Meaning, a workshop that you led, or what kind of movement you use that seemed to be relevant to that audience?
Yeah, my first work started with an ad agency. I know a lot of people who do local meetups. I think it's a really great one. It's hard to say that it's hard to say how you start, because I've been teaching since I was like 15, right? And that's something where you have the opportunity and someone says, hey, it's interesting what you have to say. Would you like to teach this person? So maybe it's on an individual level. Maybe it is a group. I think there are creative ways to go about getting your ideas out. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a formalized environment right away. It's something that takes a long time to hone and think about and reiterate methods and really your mission and values, right? And that takes a while. So it can be one student. It can be a group of 3 friends that are like, what are you talking about? This is crazy, but sure, we'll be your guinea pig. It can be really anything. For me personally, I had spent so much time working with groups of skaters and dancers that then being able to blend my work in the business environment with the artistic realm was kind of a very natural transition.
So I met you at Design for Dance, or through Design for Dance, which we'll talk about more in a minute. One of the things that struck me, I know you led a workshop last year that was specifically on using improvisation for the sake of helping business leaders or helping leaders improve in some way. Say a little bit about when you're teaching something like that, how you're thinking about relevance. Like, how are you tying the movement that you're doing to what might be useful for someone in terms of what's happening in their life or in their work or in their experiences beyond the movement?
Yeah, definitely. So I do a lot of work on nonverbal communication. The relevance is also in body awareness. And then finally, as you saw, the relevance also is in just kind of the metaphorical understanding of if they can grab onto, can grab onto, they used to play soccer when they were in high school and what that felt like and what that meant and different emotions they grabbed onto from that experience. How can that affect decision making or, all the other slew of challenges people encounter daily at work? So, there's a lot of relevance, but it's also a matter of how open people are to accepting it. And quite frankly, some people don't have the time or mental space or emotional energy to hear or listen to any of this. And that's totally fine if you want my honest opinion. It's totally fine. There are a lot of demands on people's schedules. And again, having been there and having your Outlook calendar seen by everyone else in your team and people are snagging an hour from you all day long, we all only have so much energy. So it's really about those that are interested and eager and, would like to hear the information. It's about helping them the way I see it.
Mm. What's the best, piece of feedback or comment that you've ever gotten from someone in terms of what they took away from one of your workshops or one of your experiences?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Wow. Well, that's a good question. There's been many, obviously.
Or not the best, just one that you want to share.
Yeah. I think people leave thinking. They're very introspective by the end, which I appreciate working with adults. I spend so much time working with either teenagers or young adults that are fed this information constantly, right? So they have trainers and coaches and choreographers working with them constantly, that it's nice to work with those that are not exposed to information like this, and they leave really in a really thoughtful place. Of course we get some that are like, oh, that was awesome, I've got to come back, it's great, but I think for me it's the ones that kind of tilt their head and go, huh, yeah, okay, and they're a little harder to get on board, but then seem to really kind of take it moving forward. Those are the ones I love. Obviously, we've gotten all loved the training. Please come back. My favorite anecdote, though, is I walked into a company and right away I was kind of attacked by the employees. They said, "We're not going to dance. Are we going to dance? We can't. I don't dance." And that was really fun to navigate. That was okay, hold on. And then we were doing some movement, just, really simple arm movements. And as we were doing it, they were like, this is dancing. This is dancing. And that made me really happy because it also reminded me that, the definition of dance is so broad and we all see it in different ways. And somehow we got them to dance that day, It's great.
Simple but profound. I love the person who goes, huh, like that can be even more inspiring or more moving than the best review that you ever get. I think that it's not uncommon in this kind of work that you get some head turns, but you can kind of see the gears turning. And I often think, yeah, if that person comes back next time and sits like one chair closer to the front row, or sort of is 1 inch further in, that then some impact has been created, and what are the ripple effects of that. So I really
definitely. And I mean, I'd like to add that I I believe in this work. I think it's really important. I love to do it, but it's certainly not the end all be all. And if people reject it, that's okay too. You know, I very much believe it's a, hey, this is something that's helped me. It might help you. And if that's the case, then great. If not, maybe they relax and pull themselves out of the box by reading more or painting, or everyone has their thing. And so I see this as a throw it out in the world, and whoever wants to catch it, great.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about Design for Dance. I know that you're now one of the co-directors of Design for Dance this coming year. It's happening in a few months. What should we know about this event? It's something that many of us maybe haven't heard of. I actually started to really get a lot of gears turning for me about movement in the corporate space, and who else was doing it at Design for Dance. I know you guys are just sort of planning and getting things off the ground. Tickets are now available. What should people know about this cool event that's coming up?
Yeah, Design for Dance was founded at Stanford by the behavioral psychologist BJ Fogg about 5 years ago. He has done a lot of work on behavior design and studying why people do what they do. And he essentially said, that dance is something people want to do, and it's obviously beneficial health-wise. It could really help, quite honestly, a lot of our healthcare issues if we got people up and moving and in a way they enjoyed. And so he said, how can we get people to do this? Why are not as many people dancing as we think want to? So he just kind of posed that question and started this conference about it, revolving around that question. So from there, it kind of evolved and took shape, and I became involved about 1.5 years ago, and was really drawn to the concept of, oh my gosh, there are people out there talking about the use of dance in other realms and in other ways. So I had come out of my undergrad experience, studying concert dance and formal dance, all the different techniques, and that was great. And I am so thankful for that education and loved every minute of it. But it was so cool to say, wow, we're thinking of it in different ways outside of performance. It isn't just 5, 6, 7, 8, but instead it's a way of life. And so that's what really drew me to it. So it's a conference held in San Francisco. Now this is going to be the 5th year. And in the past, the conversation has revolved around how can we use dance to support health, right? So speakers on the idea of dance helping those with Parkinson's, and there's been some really great research out there around that work. Dance to bring to the corporate environment, how can we start to help people make it through their days with better movement? Just all over the place. How can we use the concepts of dance to inspire, government decisions, anything and everything, behavior design, whatever. So that is kind of the history of it. And in this next year, we're looking to expand our conversation past just dance into what we say, all movers. So any sort of, I guess, committed movement practice, and that could be yoga, that could be Tai Chi, that could be figure skating, whatever it may be, where there are so many out there that understand what movement has done for their life and how it's helped them achieve greater things, whether it be within that movement or in another part of their life. So the theme is Design for Dance, moving to peak performance. And that's all it's about, conversations on how movement has helped and how it sparks inspiration and success.
Thank you. I'm very excited to hear more about what's unfolding there this year. And I personally just met a lot of really great people in the last couple of years. So it's the kind of event I've found that really attracts the best of the best. Isn't a good thing to say, but like just people who are really thinking in a forward way about what role movement can play in context beyond, just the traditional places that we've found ourselves as movers. So I really highly recommend checking it out. Katherine, if people want to track Design for Dance or want to get involved, how can they follow Design for Dance? And also, how can they follow you if they want to know more about your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So designfordance.org is where you want to head. There's also Facebook presence and Twitter, all Design for Dance, spelled out, no for, Design, F-O-R, dance.
Got it.
And then for me, you can go to khill.co. I'm also on Twitter. I believe it's Katherine Hill 0, I want to say. I think that's my handle. And then email, obviously, if people want to chat. You can find me at Katherine@khill.co.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. If you were to leave us with a little bit of wisdom at the end, what would be the last sort of words of advice or words of wisdom you would have for someone who wants to start doing some of this blended work and get involved in this world?
I think I would say do what interests you, do what inspires you, do what's exciting, and I guarantee people will latch onto that, and you will find a community that you work well with, and that also want to dive into this, any type of work alongside you, as long as you stay true to what's most interesting to you and authentic in that way. So don't try to make anything more than it is. Know what you enjoy, what you're interested in, what you care about, and people will see that.
Such wise words, and so much of what I see in you as you move through the world. Thank you for sharing that with us, Katherine.
Thank you, Leanne. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
To wrap up, to our audience, thank you for spending this time with us. If you want to learn more about how to teach dance in business, like the nuts and bolts of that, you can track us down on Facebook at the Corporate Dance Maven, and also corporatedancemaven.com for some training programs and tips and bits and pieces and other great interviews with other great experts doing this incredibly challenging and rewarding work. Signing off.